Okay, so I just finished watching the Venom 3, The Last Dance, and I must say it was as underwhelming as all of the two previous movies. Like, come on, they copied Justice League, the bad one, with the whole family in distress and our heroes have to save them. Like, come on, they really shoehorned in that specific family that was going on a road trip to Area 51. Like, I could not care for them. They were too shoehorned in. Their characters were unrelatable, they weren't given enough screen time, and this whole family attachment thing in the middle of the storyline, it doesn't work. Like if you're gonna have us care about them, have them introduced in the beginning of the story and create a very personal connection with our hero, Eddie Brock. Like somehow this family adopts Eddie and Eddie builds a real relationship with them and they go through everyday problems and something happens to the kid at school and Eddie gets involved. Build a storyline. Don't just introduce this random family and expect us to give a damn. And that's so dated and you already know it doesn't work. I mean, look at your competitor, Justice League. It didn't work for them. So yeah, that's one of the big gripes. Very stupid mistake. I don't know why they did that. Another thing that really pissed me off about the movie was the Curtis Connor character from the Amazing Spider-Man 1. Like, why? Why would you even cast that guy if you're not gonna have him be that character or an alternate multiverse version of that character who this time took a different path on life and perhaps he does know a thing or two about lizards? Add some kind of relationship to it. Otherwise, don't cast that same actor. I mean, are they just doing it so people would watch the trailers, get excited, and be fooled for what, the third time? Nah, it's not happening. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of executive Sony have that think that people are just gonna eat content out, content that isn't even trying to be entertaining or deep or worthwhile. The general in this movie, General Stalker, not Stalker, what's his name? Let me look it up. Yeah, General Strickland. Yeah, that's his name. Anyways, one thing I didn't like about the general is that how unlike a military guy he was. Like, he's a general. I'm sure he has seen dozens of his people die at missions gone wrong, right? And a team dies and he loses his shit. Like, he acts like a normal person. He gets so emotional. Oh, my people died. Like, come on, it should be average Tuesday for you. You got intel out of it. You got data out of it. You found out that there's a new alien on the ground. Like, act like a proper general. Just goes to show that the character was terribly written, that the story writing was terrible. Okay, so one thing I really did like about this movie and all the other two movies is the banter that Venom and Eddie have. Like, that is so good. Like, it's a proper chaotic friend relationship, and I really love that how they're always arguing and doing crazy shit together. That is what kept me watching the first two movies, and that is what got me through this one. And also the action. The action is also pretty good. I wouldn't say it's creative, but it's well done. Like, there's nothing really groundbreaking here. There are no elaborate set pieces. There is no very difficult boss fight. It's pretty standard fighting a creature kind of action that you expect by now. It kind of reminded me of those scenes from Edge of Tomorrow, where they're fighting those aliens. But yeah, the action is decent. Okay, so one thing that kind of irked me is the main villain, like Null. Now, I don't think it's a wise idea to introduce a cosmic level threat such as Null, because these movies, the Venom movies, have always been so grounded in terms of their scope, right? The threats have always been relegated to a city or an area or a country. So introducing somebody who kills planets, who's about to kill the universe, that doesn't really fit in well with the scope of the story. This kind of a villain like Null would work in a story that has this grand scope. So, for example, the Spider-Man 3 movie, right? So this movie had Doctor Strange rewriting reality, people going to mirror dimension, inviting people in from other realities. So that kind of movie that has this huge multi-dimensional scope, putting Null in one of those movies would make sense. But putting him in a movie such as this, no, I don't think that's a good idea. I get it that they had to kill off Venom, but I'm sure they could have found another way to get around it. Maybe they could have made a very personal story with Venom and that family from the very first act, and then Venom gets a disease like an alien cancer, and the story is about letting go and emotional. I mean, they could have made it and still make it action packed. And also, not just the fact that a cosmic level threat doesn't fit in with the story. The other problem is that there's a MacGuffin chase throughout the movie. Like, our main protagonist is the MacGuffin that the villain, the Null, has to get. So it's kind of a reverse MacGuffin chase because typically our heroes are doing it. And yeah, it got tired after a little bit. Like, I had hoped that they'd do more with it. It didn't evolve much, the whole concept. I was expecting them to find loopholes around this codex part because that would make the story interesting, that would actually allow it to evolve, like they find a way around it. And even if they don't find a way around it, they should at least get pretty close to it, right? So that's one of my biggest gripes with this movie, is that it was too predictable. The movie was checking boxes one after the other, like give a big backstory to a vague villain, create a MacGuffin, create an action piece, create a sidetrack quest, which is about a family that you can't give a damn about, and then put that family in threat, and then expect us to care about that family. Then you cannot fight the threat. Then all parties come together, and then somebody sacrifices themselves. Like, this is too typical. I could see it happening. So what I liked about the other movie in comparison, Spider-Man 3, the Tom Holland one, was that there were too many twists in that movie. Like, in the beginning, you're like, oh, okay, this movie is about saving or redeeming the villains, making them a good person, right? You expect that to be the case, so it would either work or not work. And then it turns into a movie, okay, no, it's about undoing the spell. It's about removing Spider-Man and saving reality, right? And then it's about, okay, there's Green Goblin, and maybe he cannot be saved. Maybe that's just who he is. And maybe it's about redeeming Peter Parker. So the story goes through evolution. It evolves. So whatever your initial quest is, it evolves into something else by the end of the story in Spider-Man 3. The Venom, in comparison, also has a cosmic threat, but it remains the same. Null is after you. One of the two guys have to die, either Eddie or Venom. Otherwise, Null is going to end the world, and that's just what happens. One of the two entities die. So that's my problem with it. It was too predictable, too formulaic. So yeah, I feel like the writing department really slept on their job. Like, they didn't have a good script for it. I mean, one thing I would say is that if you're doing a villain story, make the villain do bad things. Like, look at Penguin, prime example of how a good villain story can be done. Now, I know that's a TV show and this is a movie, less screen time, but you can still keep the story grounded in villainy because it's a villain of Spider-Man, right? I mean, those were my problems with it. Overall, underwhelming movie. I went there for the Eddie Brock and Venom relationship, chaos, chemistry, crazy friendship, whatever you want to call it. And I got that. That is, on that front, the movie delivered. But all the other things I've talked about, the movie really fumbled on them. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that movie, how you felt about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you like the review, do like, comment, and subscribe. That would really help my channel grow. And thank you for watching.